What's up, everybody? I'm the 1B. This is a video on a speech outline that I was given in college. I took a course. It used this book here, Speak Up. And this speech outline created a structure. And if you remembered this structure, it basically allowed you to come up with speeches fairly easy. If you were put on the spot, this would give you a tool to fall back on. Now, you still need the substance to be able to talk about it, but this tool basically will help you organize that. And also, when you're creating content and stuff, whatever topic you're discussing, you could use this to outline it and give yourself a structure. Let's just quickly go over the structure of the speech outline. There's three main parts of a speech, which is your intro, your body, and your conclusion. In the intro, we have the attention getter. The attention getter is like your hook. The idea is just to grab your audience's attention. I'll mention this now, which is if you can, at the end, when you're concluding, if you can tie that back to the attention getter, it really gives it a nice sign off, and it really helps people wrap that up in their mind. And then it kind of makes things just sit much easier. That's the attention getter, and that's your hook. There's different ways to handle that, and I think in today's media, utilize different strategies to create a hook. Then you have your thesis, which is one sentence to convey the topic and the purpose of your content. Then you want to provide value to your audience. That's called the what's in it for the audience, what's in it for them. Basically, you're just trying to say, why do they want to listen? Why do they want to watch? Establish your credibility. Say why you have the expertise to even talk about this topic. With content, a lot of times maybe you're having an opinion on something. When it's an opinion, there's ways to fit that in there. Let's say you're talking about a video game, and it's a video game that you played, right? So you do have some experience because you played the video game. So you have at least experience of playing that game and other games to base your opinion. There's ways to give yourself some credibility on the topic that you're speaking. And then you want to preview your main points. That's just to show the audience where you're going with the speech. Then you have a transition, and that's just to smoothly move from your intro to your body. I do have an example here. It says, first, let's talk about moving directly into your first main point. Now we have your body. Typically, there's a few things that I've learned in the business classes that I've taken, specifically in marketing, then also in the public speaking class. There's a rule of three, which is, for whatever reason, we just remember three items easier. And there's actually a few other ones. I think there's 3, 5, 7. I like the rule of three because it keeps things minimal and not overly cumbersome. You have a main point, and then you'll have some subpoints in that. If you're talking about the gameplay of a video game, you can talk about the controls. You could talk about one of the mechanics that you liked, and then you could talk about a mechanic that you didn't like. And you transition to your next main point. You can see the example here that says, now that we've considered, let's move on to transition again. And then that's to your third main point. You could really get deep inside these. Like you see here, I have a subpoint with a sub-subpoint. If you're talking about a mechanic that you like in a game, you could talk about jumping and the different type of jumping in different games. Then after your third main point, you're going to want to transition again, and you're going to be transitioning out of your body into your conclusion. This is the third part of your speech where you're going to start wrapping things up. You're going to have the summary of your main points. You just want to recap. You're going to say, we've talked about gameplay, we've talked about the story, and we've talked about the art style. This is typically how I do my reviews. In the conclusion, you're going to do recap, and then you're going to have your clincher. And this is where you're going to leave the audience with a way to remember what you've just talked about. Like I said, it's a good way to call back to your hook. If you can do that, it really seals it and makes it more memorable. I have a couple videos here from my public speaking class. The teacher gave us the structure, and then we had to practice. That was it. It was like gym. It was like, here's how you do this. Here's the rules. Now play. Let's go ahead and watch this, and I'm going to play it and point out each of the items of the structure.
Thank you. After a couple weeks of class, some of you know my name, and some of you don't. You can make names more memorable.
Okay, so that first part, some of you know my name and some of you don't, right? That's your attention getter.
And some of you don't.
That's the hook.
You can make names more memorable with a few simple methods.
Okay, that's the thesis. That's explaining the purpose of the speech.
Being able to make a name more memorable to you can help you in many social situations.
That's the value to your audience.
In order to help you make names more memorable, I use my experience with other people's names as well as my own.
That's my expertise.
The methods I will go over today will focus on syllables, pronunciation, and name association.
That's the preview of the main points.
Let's start with syllables.
Transition.
I first learned this trick in elementary school. It's a clapping trick to count syllables in words.
Now we're in the main point where we're talking about syllables.
So I'll demonstrate. Memorize. 3 claps means there's 3 syllables in the word. Berry.
So I gave you 2 examples there. Those, I guess, could be considered subpoints.
2 claps mean there's 2 syllables in a word. So, counting syllables can help you with the next trick. So let's move on to pronunciation.
That's the transition into the second point.
The trick to pronunciation is spelling the name.
Point 2, pronunciation.
How you say it instead of how you actually spell it. So I'll write my name how you spell it and then how you actually say it.
There's some more subpoints, right? I tell you what it is, and then I'm demonstrating.
So this is how you actually spell it. And then this is how you would say it. So notice that this would be the first syllable, and that would be the second syllable.
Call back to the first point. Now, you typically don't have to call back to a point. It just worked out that way because I'm taking you through a process.
Now that you can spell a name for easier pronunciation, let's talk about name association.
That's the transition to the third point.
Name association can help you match a name to a person and help you remember them.
That's the third point, which is name association.
You could use the bear, like an animal, to associate that with me.
Subpoint 1.
Or you could try another way. You could say, berry is also a fruit. So there are many types of berries, but there's only one berry in my class.
Second subpoint. It made people laugh. That's a good thing. Keeps them engaged.
Name association is the final method that I have to help you make names more memorable. By counting syllables to help you spell a name for easier pronunciation, and then using name association, you can make names more memorable for you. Some of you knew my name before.
Wasn't sure if I was finishing with the first main point. Something you might want to do is make it more clear, but I noticed once I finished that section. So let's go ahead and listen to it again.
Spell a name for easier pronunciation. Name association is the final method that I have to help you make names more memorable.
So that's the closure of
By
that
counting
point.
syllables to help you spell a name for easier pronunciation,
Recapping for
and
conclusion.
then using name association, you can make names more memorable for you. Some of you knew my name before this speech, but more of you know it now.
Clincher. You can see there, that's basically how the structure works. Have one more example. I think we had 2 minutes, and I think I hit it 1 minute, 45 seconds or something. Because we had a time limit. The teacher increased the time limits depending on what the type of topic was. That was to show us that this structure can be scaled no matter what the size of the speech is. So let's go ahead and jump over to this other one.
Thank you. This is the learning pyramid. It shows you the percentages of retention for each learning method. In Valerie Strauss' article, Why the Learning Pyramid is Wrong, posted March 6, 2013 on the Washington Post website, she talks about how the learning pyramid is unreliable.
I was using a fact as my attention getter.
She says, so many variables affect memory retrieval that you can't assign specific percentages of recall without specifying many more of them. I'm showing the learning pyramid because as students, we already know that we're not retaining 100% of the information we are trying to learn. This afternoon, I will share a way to get you more use out of the flashcard we all know.
That's the purpose of the speech.
By adding some information to a flashcard, you can access information much quicker. And as students, we need information as fast as we can get it.
Provide value to your audience.
With the experience I have developing this tool, plus some research, I will
My
be
experience.
able to share this tool with you. To share this tool with you, we will need to go
Preview
over
the topics, main
what
points.
each of these cards are, what is on each of these cards, and how you can use them. Now that you know what we need to go over, let's
Transition.
begin with what each of these cards are. Both of these cards can be made on a note card or a digital note card at a website such as Quizlet.com.
Main point.
The full definition of a flashcard from Merriam-Webster.com, copyrighted 2013, is a card bearing words, numbers, or pictures that is briefly displayed as by a teacher to a class, usually as a learning aid. The reference card has the same information, but it also includes the source and location of the information on the card.
In this main point, the idea is to tell you typically what you already know. We're just kind of reviewing what a flashcard is, and then I'm introducing you to the idea of what a reference card is. The main point would be the comparison of flashcard and reference card, with which will also compare throughout the whole thing. The first subpoint would be what is a flashcard, and the second part is what is a reference card. And I think it's just a quick overview of what the reference card is.
Now that you know what each of these cards are, let's move on to what is on these cards.
Transition.
Since I developed the flashcard into the reference card,
what is on these cards?
They are similar. The front of the flashcard has a word or number picture like the definition states. The reference card I like to think of like a Google search. The vocabulary word ethics,
what's on the front of the card is subpoint 1.
Would be the keyword entered into a Google search. The keyword that was entered into the Google search would then bring up a list of sources. In this instance, the source of ethics is in the Speak Up textbook. Once you enter one of those listed sources, which would be the website in the Google search, that would be the specific location for the information for your keyword. The specific location for ethics is chapter 3, page 66.
This is finishing up subpoint 2. Yeah, because now we're switching to the back, which is a whole nother subpoint.
A definition or explanation of the vocabulary word, image, or number on the front. I kept it the same with the reference card because you can use the location and source on the front to get additional information. Now that you know what is on these cards,
transitioning,
let's talk about how you can use them.
Main point 3, how to use them.
The use of each of these cards is impacted by what is on them. The flashcard is limited. In my experience, it's used the same way as a repetition study tool for memorization. The reference card can be used the same way in memorization, but when I first started here at Green River, I was taking a lot of online tests that were open book and timed. So I would answer the question, and then I would want to double check in the book to make sure I got it right. So I would find a word within the question or answer, look that up in the index, find a page number, and go to the word and see if that word was correct. Instead, before I took the test, you already have to read the chapter. And then I was making flashcards with the vocabulary words. So I decided to add the page number so I could just flip through the cards quicker than flipping through the pages and get to the information that you need. You can also use the reference card in a professional setting.
So this is subpoint 2.
If at your job you're having to refer to guidelines, rules, or instructions, maybe other information, you can put this information on the card with a short description on the back, and then the source and location so that you can get to this information when you need it. We just talked about how you can use these cards.
So we're transitioning to conclusion.
Let's go over what we talked about today.
Recap.
We talked about what a flashcard and a reference card is, what is on them, and how they can be used. It doesn't matter what your retention rate is, whether it's 10%, 50%, 99.9%, using reference cards will get you back to the information that you aren't retaining.
Call back to the attention getter where we're talking about the percentages of each learning style and retention. Calling back to that, and I'm finishing it, clinching it. That's the examples. Another tip for public speaking is I'm trying to look at different areas of the room, but I am almost never directly looking at a person. People think I'm looking at people, but I'm just looking at different areas within the room. That might help some people. Some people may have an issue with public speaking. I will link the speech outline down below. It's in a Google document. As you can see here, it's formatted. What you'll want to do is make a copy of it for yourself. It's got some of how to use this outline, and I would save a version of this and then then when you have a topic that you want to talk about, or maybe you want to make a piece of content, then make another copy, name that the topic of what you're talking about. I could show you here is you just make a copy and then you would name it. Gives you a whole new copy. That one you can go through and you could delete this part, rename the title, remove all this stuff, and just keep the basic structure of the outline so that you could then input stuff. And something I should also say, research and refine your topic. A lot of times you're probably going to have your thesis before you have your attention getter, or maybe you already know what kind of value you want to bring to your viewers or your listeners. This is outline structure. Even though it's for public speaking, you could use it for writing, you could use it for other things, and you could take things out when you don't need it. When I do my video game reviews, I introduce the game, I talk about each of those main points, and then I conclude by kind of saying whether I like it or whether I don't like it and how much time I spent playing the game. As far as the intro part goes, I might not get to establish my credibility. I don't get to preview my main points or anything. This has a lot of versatility to it, and you can adjust to fit the medium that you're using it in, whether it's actually a presentation you're giving in person, a speech that you're giving at a wedding. You can cut things and make things a tool that you could use for pretty much anything. And as soon as you memorize this structure, if you're at work and all of a sudden the person that was supposed to give a talk that didn't show up today, you can then come up on the spot. You could say, well, give me 5 minutes or something. You could sit there and you could be like, all right, this is that structure. And then you jot down the ideas that you want to talk about. So yeah, hopefully this tool is useful for everybody. I was providing this resource to the community members of the workshop. The workshop is a place where we talk creativity, productivity. We do play video games there. I think that it is a good team building and networking, interacting tool. And we just started this new meeting that we do every other week. I just wanted to give them this tool. I'm sharing it with everybody now on YouTube. Hopefully it's something that you could use. Get the outline below in the description, and I'll talk to everybody later. Peace.